Welcome to Women of the Autosphere on Break Fix. We dive into the stories of trailblazers, engineers, racers, designers, and disruptors who are shaping the automotive and motorsports industries. From the pit lane to the boardroom, from concept sketches to championship podiums, these women are driving change, breaking barriers, and inspiring the next generation. Whether you're a lifelong gearhead, a curious newcomer, or someone who simply loves a good story, you're in the right place. This is more than a podcast, it's a movement.
On this episode of Break Fix's Women of the Autosphere series, we're thrilled to welcome Sabre Cook, a true force in motorsports whose journey is as inspiring as it is impressive.
From her early days karting in Colorado to breaking barriers in open wheel racing, Sabre has proven herself both on and off the track. She's not only competed in elite series like the W Series, USF 2000, and Indy Pro 2000, but she's also balanced her racing career with a background in mechanical engineering, working with some of the biggest names in the automotive industry. In a sport where talent, tenacity, and technical skill must work in perfect harmony, Sabre embodies the full package, paving the way for the next generation of women in racing. And we'll dive into her path, her perseverance, and her vision for the future of motorsports.
And joining me tonight is returning co-host Lauren Goodman, Associate Curator of Exhibitions at the Revs Institute, and one of the many personalities here at the Motoring Podcast Network. So welcome back, Lauren.
Good to be here.
And with that, let's welcome Sabre officially to Break Fix.
Hi, guys. I feel so inspired and so good after that introduction. You guys should just come be my pep talk team before I get in the race car. That was great.
We'll be the Flavor Flav.
The Flavor Flav. You got to wear the giant clock, though.
Well, Sabre, like all Break Fix stories, there's a super heroine origin story out there. So take us back to your earliest memories of karting in Colorado and what first sparked your passion for racing. Did you come from a racing family?
I did. I was super lucky to have a pretty cool dad. He used to race motocross and supercross professionally back in the 80s. And he and my mom did not want me racing motorcycles. So we compromised with four wheels because it's much safer. So I appreciate that now. I have a lot less broken bones than I probably would have otherwise. That's how we got started. Got into karting just before I was 8 years old. So I guess the heroine story started with my dad being my hero and just loving racing and wanting to get involved in that. And I was also born on Supercross Sunday. So my parents, they used to host a local Supercross events in our hometown. And my mom went into labor the morning of the big race. So she went to the hospital instead of to the racetrack. It was it was inevitable.
Karting at a young age, especially a young lady in karting, and motorsport, as we know, is a male-dominated sport, but that is changing. We're seeing parity in multiple disciplines of motorsport throughout the world. What was it like for you competing at that level and then moving up further and further into racing?
It was challenging at times being either the only woman or one of a couple. It definitely made you have a different experience growing up than maybe your peers that would be involved in a space that had more women or more representation. But I think I learned so much from being in those spaces, and I had to learn how to kind of create my own space in a place that wasn't traditionally expecting me to be there. So, and I really loved the fact that I got to do a lot of my younger years with my dad, and he was a great mentor for me and helped me kind of, navigate the challenges and that anybody goes through in racing, right? Male or female, just the challenges and, the mental and physical struggles that you go through as an athlete and fighting your way through and moving up towards the top. So yeah, it was challenging, but it was great.
So we talked to a lot of younger drivers who came up in a similar way that you did. Maybe they started in karting or they went into junior dragsters or midgets or something like that. And there's always this balance that has to be struck, not only just within the family, like, hey, how far are your parents going to support you and push you, but with schooling. So you started karting at 8 years old. And what we tend to find is kids that young do racing in fits and spurts, because as you move to middle school and high school and schooling gets in the way, we're going to talk about your mechanical engineering degree as the punchline here. But how did that work for you as you continued to follow your passion, but also go into a field like mechanical engineering?
Definitely, it wasn't easy. And I'm still, honestly, transparently, I try to do too many things. I was the kid that I can't remember how old I was. I had a complete meltdown to my mom because I was like, I just want to do everything. I don't want to have to choose. So that was a problem I had very early on in my life. But I guess I just tried to lean into, my teachers and peers around me to say, hey, this is something I really want to do. And this is like a passion for me. But obviously I really care about school. Like I love learning. That's like one of the biggest things for me is I'm always like really eager to learn and continue to get better at whatever it is or learn about new things. So I just leaned into my peers, my professors, my family to say, how can I optimize this situation to be able to chase both of them? And it was definitely some sleepless nights for sure, too many times, especially as I got older and, in high school and then into college. But when I was young, it did have those little spurts where there was maybe more racing and then there was more school. And I didn't get to drive as much as I would have liked to or wanted to or should have been driving, because there is that balance. And you have to learn also, like as a young sports person, you start to learn like what it really takes, the level of commitment that you have to start to perform at that high level, how much it really means that you need to be consistent and how much it really means that you need to commit time to that. That was something that everybody, I feel like, you go through when you're younger is, you don't get the results that you want. And the hard reality is, okay, well, you've got to commit the time that those top people are committing. And that's really the only way around it is you've got to be there and you've got to be willing to put in those, the 10,000 hour rule. You've got to be willing to put in the time to get there.
So did you have one of those awkward conversations with your guidance counselor that was, hey, I want to be a race car driver? And then they said, you should find a career to back that up. Did the race car driving beget becoming a mechanical engineer? Was the engineering always there for you?
Actually, I was one of those weird kids that I liked school. I liked math and I liked science. And there was never a question in my mind at any point like, oh, I don't want to do school. I don't want to pursue like going and getting a degree. It was always a plan of mine. And my parents obviously heavily encouraged it because it was important for them. Nobody else in my family up until that point had ever gone to college. So I was the first generation student and had to kind of go through the learning curve of that, right? Because nobody had been through it. But for them, it was such an important goal to be able to put their kids into college and have that degree and something that you can go and take and build a life on. It was never a matter of if it was going to happen. It was just like when and what it was going to be. And pretty quickly, I decided it was going to be something that was STEM oriented. That was pretty clear, honestly, probably from the third grade on. And then it just became more clear later in my high school when I took a mechanical engineering class. And then I was like, you know what, this makes sense. And we have a really great engineering school in Colorado that's one of the top engineering universities in the US. So in-state tuition was all about that, save the money. So it became an easy choice to apply there. And actually, I don't know if this was a dumb thing or just a bold thing, but I only applied there. I didn't have any backups. I was like, I'm going here. This is what's happening.
Have you been able to apply what you learned from your mechanical engineering degree in your racing, or do you see avenues for potential to exercise your degree in motorsport at some point?
So, I mean, I've worked for teams in a design capacity in motorsports. So I have used it, but as far as like, you mean using it specifically as a driver?
Like those scientific principles and practices and the way you analyze and break things down as an engineer, how do you apply that to your driving?
I am definitely much more analytical in my approach to things. I have very structured and rigorous debrief sheets, and like the way that I log, like say a testing event, I have a workbook that I haven't really seen a lot of other drivers have. So I have like an Excel workbook where I have multiple tabs and I log as much tangible data as I can without making my engineer brain overthink. Like when you get in the race car, you've got to be totally free. Like you need to not overthink things. It needs to be more natural. Like it needs to just sort of happen. And you've got to be allowing your body to take over and the muscle memory to take over. Because if you drive with your conscious mind, it's always going to be slower than driving with your subconscious. Really making sure that the analytical engineering brain stays in its lane, but it is very beneficial when I get out of the car to look at video and data and try to narrow down what are the big things that we need to be focused on, what's me, what's the car, and just being able to have like a clear debrief and logging system that then allows me to look back on trends and past experiences to then move forward more quickly.
This reminds me a lot of Mark Donahue. the great Porsche driver. That's who it reminds me of, who also had an engineering degree. And we have at the museum, we have his notebooks that he kept, where he logged every single note about every single lap about the cars he was testing for Roger Penske. So I think you would have been two peas in a pod, you and Mark Donohue.
It sounds like.
And they're all the graph paper notebooks. And it's all like very, very lined up and very organized, not like my handwriting at all. So I think the two of you would have gone on like gangbusters. But I'm also thinking, you're talking about having to turn off the conscious mind and just feel and engage with the car. Do you find it harder to do that when you understand how cars are designed and engineered? Or do you trust the car more now that you understand the tolerances?
No, I think it's harder if you understand, because it just gives you a bigger range to think about. Like, first thing that comes to mind is like Adam and Eve, right? You don't know what you don't know till you bite the apple. And then all of a sudden you like think about all these things. So in some ways, I think it gives you just a different perspective, different range to think about when you're driving. And I definitely have to check myself. And I always go in and preface whenever I start working with an engineer, like, I'm like, look, I don't want to do your job. I'm going to try to like keep myself in my lane. Definitely let me know, like, if you're like, Sabre, like, let me take this over. Like, you don't need to worry about engineering the car right now. Like, actually, this just happened in a test that we just had. My engineer had to remind me, he's like, hey, your job is to just give me feedback about balance of the car in this moment. I don't want you to stress and feel like you need to help me solve the problem. And that's also like typical, I feel like, girl, like people pleasing, like, I always want to help, like I want to contribute kind of thing. So it's definitely very helpful to have like my engineer that I work with this year, I work with very well. And he's also has a driving background. So I think that's also why we work really well together, because he understands what I'm going through. It is a challenge sometimes to keep them in the right lanes.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because motorsport has been at the forefront of technology. I mean, we could make arguments about planes, trains, and automobiles being the things that drive technology forward. But racing, especially Formula One, and then you kind of counter that with the hypercars at Le Mans, things like that, are always cutting edge technology. And so as we wrap up this thought of mechanical engineering and keeping that lens on for just a little bit longer, when you look at the modern cars, you're in sports car and endurance racing, which is going to be a little bit different because you're based on production cars. But when you look at the technology that's out there, is there much more to give? Is it all just finesse and fine tuning? Unlike the old days where it was like these radical inventions, and the Formula One used to be at the height of experimentation, where now it's a little bit more like a spec series. So if you look at it not as a driver, but as an engineer, what's the technology look like out there right now on the race field?
Obviously, like you said, in the series that I'm in with Porsche Carrera Cup and like the IMSA paddock, it is a little bit more reined in, except for maybe the GTP side of things. But as far as like anything that has to do with GT3 cars, LMP2 a little bit, at the end of the day, it comes from a production or an OEM car. It has to be within reason. Like, it can't be this like craziness, because the factories need to justify, like, why are we putting an investment and research into racing if we're not even going to put it in our road cars? Because at the end of the day, that's ultimately how they justify racing all the time, is this is supposed to help push our road car technology forward. With Formula One, though, I feel like the reason why maybe like back in the day when you referenced, you had all these crazy monster machines and everything, the engineering field was still very much developing. There was like this big growth of things. Like, they were learning really, like, it got to the point where there was like so much horsepower, right? But then they realized, oh, it doesn't really matter if you can go really fast if we can't harness that, you know, with the brakes and the suspension and like optimizing the package as a whole. So once those two kind of like caught up to each other, there became kind of this like, it's almost like an exponential growth. And now it's kind of like flatlining a little bit. And now where the big innovations are happening is in efficiency and sustainability. So like a lot of the new rules that are happening in Formula One is, I think it's a gas that has to be made from food waste.
Yeah.
All the teams need to be able to create their own fuel and utilize that. I can't remember what year it starts implementing, maybe 2029. So like that's a big thing. Obviously the hybrid system, like all the energy recovery systems, stuff like that, to make the cars unfortunately quieter, but more sustainable. It's important because it helps us. Yes, obviously F1 is a big show and it does have like its own carbon footprint to be this big show, but they are realizing that they need to take into account what current global needs are. And so I feel like it's another way for racing to justify to be racing, right? It's like, okay, well, if this is the current technology and the issues that are important to people right now is sustainability and all these things. So we need to utilize this racing platform to be able to push that technology. That's where it's at.
All right, now I'm going to ask you to take that mechanical engineering fedora off your head and just fling it across the room like a frisbee and talk to me like a race car driver. And what I'm driving to here is balance of performance. Because the argument is the balance of performance isn't about engineering, it's about rules and putting on a good show, as you said, right? So, your thoughts on BOP?
I mean, it's necessary so that way all manufacturers can essentially compete in a level playing field, but it's always hard. Not everyone is going to always be happy, right? There's always going to be checks and balances, and that's how endurance racing is going to be until you make it like a spec series like Porsche Carrera Cup, where there is such a smaller window. It's all the same cars. So it's unfortunately part of it. It's how it works. So that way more players can stay in the game, in which we don't want to eliminate that, right? Like, it's important to have that many manufacturers, as many as possible in the world of racing, because it's just better for the sport. It's better for the fans, and it's better for us as race car drivers.
Switching gears from the engineering side to the money side, the other thing that fuels racing.
And the main thing that fuels
the main thing. Since time immemorial, if it ain't daddy's money, it's somebody else's money that's fueling the racing.
Exactly.
So when you moved from karting to the lower formula, that was requiring a step up in terms of the financial commitment from your family, from sponsors. What's the most challenging part of putting together sponsorships?
So many areas. For reference, I didn't start racing cars until I was almost 23 years old, because I had an amazing family that was very supportive, and they did help quite a bit with my karting side of things. But it got to the point where I had to sustain that through sponsorships and support from the factory teams, even in karting. And so jumping up to that next level of budget in car racing was out of the question. So I didn't go to cars until very late. Like 23 is like way old to start your car career comparatively to, people starting at 14, 15 years old now. Going into car racing, I didn't have that opportunity until I found a sponsor that was willing to put me in their car. So I had to very quickly and haphazardly figure out how to put a much larger corporate sponsorship program together very quickly, because without me putting the corporate sponsorship together, there was no racing. There was no family money. There was not, like, it wasn't going to happen. It was either figure it out, like baptism by fire, or go back and go be an engineer and forget about your racing dreams. I obviously made a lot of mistakes. I tried to figure it out, but I would say that the biggest thing to understand about sponsorship is, at the end of the day, it's about telling your story, building a story that resonates with people, and getting people to buy into that story, and using that story to help someone meet some need. And if you're able to marry those together, you can make a very powerful partnership that will last longer. Like, it's a business, right? But ultimately businesses are made of people, and people just need a emotional justification to choose to be a part of your program. So yes, it's important to show a return on investment, but at the end of the day, it is about them liking you as a person and believing in you and your story and wanting to become a part of that story. I think that's the biggest thing that I've realized about sponsorship.
We got a chance to meet at the Women Who Drive Summit, sponsored by WIMNA. Had a great time, and I love how they emphasize the coaching of young women drivers, and to do things like sponsorships, how to go out and put together their sponsorships and their package in order to fund their careers. And one of the things they talked about, it's still a discussion about sponsors still hesitating to fund women drivers at the same rate they fund male drivers. Have you seen that change just in the time you've been driving? Do you think there's been some movement, or not enough movement, but some movement?
Absolutely. I think women in sport in general are getting more sponsorship dollars. If we just look at the data, because I like to just look at the data. In the past, traditionally, women globally have received less than 1% of sports sponsorship dollars. That was a few years ago. And now I think we're maybe up between 4 to 6%. So that's like a big jump. It's still like extremely skewed, but that is progress. And I've definitely seen it in more tangible ways, like by me being involved in W Series and now being a part of the Porsche Mobile One Female Driver Development Program. There are definitely things that are moving and shifting. It's just going to take time to reach more of an equality level.
Which brings me to W Series. I'd love to know more about your experience moving into that. I just realized that I saw you drive at COTA in the W Series in 2021.
Yeah.
There were two races that year. Moving on to what really is a global stage like that, did it feel like they were just dialing up the intensity, or did it feel like a completely different beast altogether?
Before W Series, I'd actually raced on a Formula One weekend previously with USF4, so I did race at COTA.
Oh.
So I'd been part of an F1 weekend in that respect, but obviously W Series was kind of the next step up. We were very much in the public eye, became, this new thing that everyone's like, how's this gonna go? Like, what's going on? And kind of the first of its kind. It was incredible because, yes, I know a lot of people had their opinions about it and they have their opinions on F1 Academy. But as a racer, as we just talked about, corporate sponsorship is my bread and butter and the only way I can chase my goals. So to have W Series come in and say, hey, here's an opportunity to race an F3 car on a global stage. You don't have to pay any of it and you will get paid. All you have to do is qualify and be one of the fastest drivers. Like, you say that to any race car driver and they're like, oh, okay, let's go. Where do I sign up? So for me, it was, yes, I don't love the idea of the all women's thing because at the end of the day, we want to be fighting just to be the top, full stop, no gender involved. But until W Series, I'd never had a full season of car racing. So that became my first opportunity to actually have my first full season. So without that, no matter what your opinion is on it, it was so revitalizing for myself and so many other women that were a part of it who otherwise were going to be on the sidelines.
A huge step in terms of visibility, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
So I've been following along with the Academy as well. Do you think the Academy model is an improvement on the W Series model?
I think that it has definitely engaged the F1 fan base more, and that has been helpful that it is branded with the Formula One brand and it has that giant behind it. That has been positive because it's given it more reach. The only thing that is, I don't want to say a step backwards, but it's not as beneficial to the drivers is that it's not as much based off of qualifying to be one of the fastest in the seats. You still have to bring money. Not like W Series where it's like you show up as a pro, you get paid to drive, and you don't have to bring any money. F1 Academy is a little bit of a different structure, and it's also F4 cars. So the cars are slower as well. It's like kind of give and take, but I think ultimately, like in the long run, I hope that it's going to create this ladder to having more women performing at the top in the road to F1.
Tell us about the Porsche development program and how you got involved with that.
Porsche Motorsports North America didn't have a female driver development program until 2023 when I became the founding member and the only member in 2023 when I became the first female to race in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America series. So it was really actually super cool of Porsche to be intuitive, and they are paying so much more attention than you realize. Like when I was first looking at the idea of going into Porsche Carrera Cup, who, by the way, the reason why this happened was because of Lynn St. James, who is one of the co-founders of WIMNA. She said, hey, this looks like a great series. Like, it's super competitive. It has a lot of potential to put you in a good spot to then build into stuff long-term in the sports car world. And so I was like, okay, like, let's take a look at it. Let's see what it is. We wouldn't announce anything. There was nothing public going on, but Porsche just paying attention to what was happening. They realized, hey, what's going on? You want to race in the series? And so the fact that they just like were paying so much attention to realize that without any sort of formal conversation and say, hey, okay, you want to do this? How can we help you do this? And then even bringing their own corporate partners in to make it happen. What other OEM is really actually doing something like that? So I felt like incredibly thankful and grateful for them to want to create that space and then not just stop with me being in the series, be like, oh, that box checked, done, right? Like every year with the help of Mobile One, they've expanded the program. And now I think there's like 7 of us now total in the Porsche Motorsports North America ladder. So it's grown so much and it's growing every year. They're just getting better about providing us with new things to learn, more resources, or workshops. It's been an awesome thing to be a part of.
After doing a couple of seasons of open wheel and making the switch to Porsche Cup racing, what was that transition like? Do you like production-based racing or sports car racing over the open wheel, or do you still kind of long for the days of being in an open wheel car?
As a driver, right? Sports car racing, ultimately, it's a street car that gets kind of turned into a race car. And a formula car is a purpose-built, born-bred race car. So it's meant to do all the right things, right? So it is very challenging to jump into the sports car world after being in the open wheel world and coming into a car that you have to think your way around more, because a 911 especially, it's engineered wrong. The engine is behind the rear wheels.
I'm glad you said it, not me.
It's fine. They know it. It's the legacy, right? Like, it is what made Porsche. So it is a very challenging car, but it makes drivers, it gives them a bigger toolbox to pull from, because it is challenging and you do have to really be in tune with using your tools in the car and driving the car with your feet, using your driver tools to really help the balance. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of production cars that are at the same level of Porsche Carrera Cup where it really pushes the driver to evolve and develop in the same way. That's why, they say if you can be fast in a 911, you can be fast in anything. After my experience being in the Carrera Cup, going back and driving anything that I would have driven before, like open wheel, I'm 100% faster. So like, it's made me a better driver because it's given me a larger range of tools to utilize. It's been challenging, but it has definitely made me grow.
Coming off of the GT3 based 911s, the modern era stuff, 991s, 992s, things like that, have you been able to get behind the seat of a classic analog 911 and kind of compare and contrast what the new cars are like versus what some of your heroes have driven in the past?
The first Porsche I ever drove, it's kind of analog, maybe like it still has some, like in theory it has like a blip, but it's like a mechanical blip where it has actually the thing that pushes the gas pedal down, is the 997. So that was the first GT3 Cup car I'd ever driven. The sponsor that I mentioned that put me in my first race car, it was his. So I was destined, I guess, to find my way into a Porsche eventually, one way or another. But that was my first experience in a Porsche GT3 Cup car. And I loved it because it's super raw. Like, the 997 is a shorter wheelbase, be really aggressive with it. And most of my karting background was in shifter karts. So getting in one of those was like, this is awesome. This is like so much, like, so similar. So it was a great introduction.
I read on your Wikipedia page about, as part of the development program, you got coaching from Patrick Long, who is a friend of the museum and a very cool guy.
Yeah, Pat has been awesome, like such a great resource for me. And he's a really cool guy, like just so accessible, so chill. And I feel like I can, message him or call him and just be like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, how do you think I should handle it? Like, what should I do? Like, do you have advice? And he is always like there to make sure that you as a driver and an athlete are getting what you need. Like, he's going to always put you first and want the best for you as a person, regardless of all the other things that lie out there. Because, at the end of the day, he's a race car driver. He knows what we're going through, and he just wants to be like that mentor and give us advice that, he wished that he would have had at the time when he was going through all of this. So he's been an incredible resource, and it was super cool to see him in the F1 movie. I thought that was a nice little cameo. He did a great job. And we just had him as well we have a Porsche driver combine every year now, and it's been the last couple of years, it's been at Penske in Charlotte, and he came this year and kind of gave us an impromptu inspirational speech, and it was just great to have him there. And I really appreciate all of the advice and mentorship that he's provided.
There's someone you want to talk to about driving Porsches. He's the guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Lauren, if we're name dropping, Patrick was on Evening with the Legend, along with another one of Sabre's heroines out there, and that's Margie Smith-Haas. And you guys did a video together about generations of Porsche drivers. You want to talk about that a little bit, what that video was about for the folks that haven't seen it before?
That was a super fun project that Porsche USA came to me and Margie with and said, hey, this is such a powerful story. Like, we're going to bring in, the current driver and the one that started blazing the trail and then has this story with the Porsche family. And we'd love to tell your stories together, introduce both of you to our Porsche community together, and just share this awesome story that's kind of evolved through the years and see how the growth has happened for women in motorsports. So it was actually really cool. The director had this fun idea that she didn't want us to meet until they could capture it on camera. So Margie and I were actually kept totally separate in the hair and makeup rooms. Like, I didn't see her. I didn't get to talk to her. Like, we went to dinner separately the night before. They were like, no, we don't want you guys to meet because we want to capture this moment on camera. So they kept us separate. We started shooting in the morning, and then I was in the car and they brought Margie out onto the track, on the side of the track, and they captured the moment of us meeting for the first time. And it was so awesome. Like, I'd never met Margie before, obviously, and it was great to just meet her and see like how much awesome experiences she had to share, just how much she still like loved and appreciated the motorsports experience she's had, and then shared the love of the Porsche family and how many great things she's gotten to experience being involved in such a strong community, and like the support she receives and the great things that she has to say about the Porsche Club of America community, and just all the cool things that she got to experience back in the day and how different it was, and like, you know, the challenging things that she dealt with too that are much better today, but we do see some of the similar trends. But it was an incredible time to get to spend with her, and I think the video turned out great as well, so props to the Porsche USA and their production team, because it turned out really well.
Do you plan to follow in Margie's footsteps and be one of the very few American women to race at Le Mans?
That's the plan. That's always the dream, right? So we'll see how and when we can make that happen.
Okay, so quick pit stop before we transition. What are your top 3 tracks to drive?
Now, it's kind of a tie, but Brands Hatch GP circuit and Spa, those 2 for sure. For a third one, I would say either.
Did I hear Watkins Glen? Is that what she said?
I mean, I like Watkins Glen, but I don't know. I've never raced on Laguna Seca, so I don't know if I can fully say that yet. I've driven there, but never raced. So like, I liked Assen in the Netherlands, and I actually really enjoy Coda. So I don't know. Those are kind of like all tied for third.
You like having a nice steep incline, apparently. That's what you really like between Coda and Spa. That's what you really like, apparently.
Well, I'm a Colorado girl at heart.
That's right.
So I'm like, I need my mountains. I gotta have some elevation changes.
So if she could drive Road Atlanta backwards, it'd be perfect.
Oh, true. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, since Lauren opened the door for a pit stop, I got one for you. We haven't asked this one of our guests in quite a long time, but since you have a mechanical engineering degree, Sabre, you are at the head of the boardroom table, and 2 blueprints are slid to you to decide on by your team. One is the space forward 959, and the other one is the fire breathing F40. Which one do you pick?
F40.
Wins again. So, okay, explain why.
I feel like it's more overall balanced, and I appreciate the aero elements more. Does that make sense?
It does. We get a lot of different answers for this, and it tends to be about the passion in the F40.
Yeah.
Clinically, the 959 is better on paper, but as a driver, the F40 is the car you want.
It makes you excited to think about driving it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess my driver ultimately took over instead of the engineer brain, but
it's okay. The score is way off into Ferrari's corner for that one. But anyway.
Well, I wanted to know a little more about getting ready for a typical race weekend, what your life looks like as a racing driver. What does the week up to the race look like? What are you doing to get physically, mentally prepared? What kind of sponsorship commitments do you have? And if you feel like you're a driver who actually kind of gets juiced up by those kind of event commitments, or you find them draining and distracting?
I am naturally introverted. I appreciate my recharge time, but I definitely appreciate the fact that I get the chance, and I want to feel grateful for those opportunities, before a race weekend, where we're living in a space right now, and, it could change tomorrow, but the fact that I have the chance to create an event that people are excited to show up at and meet me and see the car, like, that is something special. And so I really try to be grateful for those opportunities, but I will admit, like, it does wear you out. So you just have to kind of manage your energy going into a race weekend. Kind of as we talked about earlier, I try to do too many things pretty often. I'm definitely the overcommitment type. So I've been working on doing a little bit less, or like a little less stress going into race weekends, creating a better tapering mental and physical load going into a race weekend. It is challenging because as a race car driver, like, you want to do a great job for your partners on and off the track. And so creating those events and doing those activations before a race weekend is really important to continue to build not only my brand, but also connect my sponsors to more people. So it's definitely a fine line that you have to walk to have balance.
What's something about a career as a driver that would surprise most people who have regular 9 to 5 jobs?
Well, I think most people don't realize that we don't get paid to race, except for unless you're some of the elite few, right? Like you have to bring, whether that's family money, which is often the case, or you bring corporate sponsorship to the team to race. Like you're not sending in your resume. There is obviously those situations where that does happen, but the majority of racing happens by bringing funding to the team. And you have to work on getting paid outside of that, whether that's coming from an extra amount that you have in sponsorship dollars, or that mostly comes for me from coaching, engineering work, media work, sim coaching, all that extra stuff. That's where you actually get paid, not necessarily from a team paying you.
Talked about following in the footsteps of people like Margie and others that have come before you. Taking this information in mind that a lot of people probably haven't thought of before, what advice would you give to young drivers, especially young ladies that want to follow in your footsteps?
For anybody, it's just really important to understand that motorsports is a lifestyle. It's not just a job. It's not just all about doing cool things and going to cool places, as much as like we do get to do that. But it's important, I think, to understand like the level of commitment that it takes to be successful in motorsports and the sacrifices that you're going to have to make your goals happen. And that's not just as a driver. That's, whether you're an engineer or a mechanic, like those guys do not get enough appreciation for the hours and blood, sweat, and tears that have to be put in to make our race cars go fast. So I would just say be prepared to work hard, make it your lifestyle. But also the other thing that I would say is really important is to build a really good team around you. Trying to do it all by yourself does not work no matter what industry you're in. Having the people that you know are going to be there in your corner and able to direct you in the right path. I mean, it's instrumental for anybody, but especially for anybody that's, an athlete trying to make their way in their sport.
In watching some of the lower series or even some of the people still in karting, are there any young people you have your eye on that you think we should also be watching at this time?
I will be honest, it's been a long time since I've been to a go-kart race. I think the last time I was maybe coaching at one last year, but it's been a while. So I don't know if I have the best inside scoop as far as karting goes, but car-wise, I would say actually somebody that's really impressed me. Her name is Anna Ciccini. I don't know how to say her last name, but she just started racing and she's in Porsche Sprint Challenge, first year in the GT4 cars. I think this is like maybe her first competitive or like really actual, like more pro season in racing ever. She didn't do karting, nothing, like did like a track day with her dad, and her dad are like, let's do this together. This will be fun. And then she quickly became faster than her dad. I think maybe they did like a WRL race or something like that, like the year before. And now they're full on in Porsche Sprint Challenge. And she's winning consistently in the GT4 cars in Porsche Sprint Challenge. To have no background and to be going in and doing that, I feel like that's pretty impressive. The other people that I would definitely say impress me is the Hannahs, if you don't know them. They're teammates in SRO traditionally, Hannah Greenmeyer and Hannah Grisham. Hannah Greenmeyer, I have known for a long time. She's a local Colorado girl as well. Maybe a little bit of Colorado pride going on there, but she's always been really, really fast, works really hard. Her and Hannah Grisham are doing a really great job in the GT4 cars and have gotten some really, really solid results lately. So I would say definitely probably those are my top ones. If you want to think about over the pond though, I would probably say the two latest F1 Academy winners, Marta Garcia and Abby Pulling. I raced with them in W Series and they're both wicked fast. Abby has Alice Powell as a mentor, and I think she could do some great things if given the right opportunities.
What's next for you?
What's next? Well, immediately we have our Indianapolis race coming up. Event-wise, I will be doing an event at my alma mater, Colorado School of Mines. So really looking forward to that. But as far as overarching for next year, I actually can't give you an answer because there's some interesting things in the works. We'll see what comes to fruition, but I will be staying in the Porsche family, but I just can't tell you where yet.
No spoilers.
No spoilers yet.
Well, Sabre, we've reached that part of the episode where I like to invite our guests to share any shout outs, promotions, thank yous, or anything else that we haven't covered thus far.
All of my social media and anything you want to learn about me and my partners at sabrecookracing.com. And And you can subscribe to my newsletter and go check out my YouTube channel, whatever you want to see. It's all found in that one convenient location.
And that's a wrap on our conversation with the incredible Sabre Cook, an inspiring force in motorsports who proves that talent, determination, and technical expertise are a winning combination both on and off the track. From her early days in karting to competing on the global stage, Sabre's story is one of resilience, innovation, and relentless passion for racing. If you want to keep up with Sabre's journey, be sure to follow her on Instagram at Sabre Cook, Twitter at Sabre_Cook, and Facebook at Sabre Cook Racing. Or find out more on her website, sabrecookracing.com.
With that, Sabre, I can't thank you enough for coming on Break Fix. I have to say, you're making all the right moves. You are a great role model for aspiring drivers, and hopefully they will heed your advice from this episode. And we wish you continued success in the Porsche Cup Series or whatever's going on with Porsche. And let's manifest it right now, shall we? One day, Le Mans. And when that comes to be, we hope to have you back here for an Evening with a Legend episode so you can talk about your experiences at Le Mans.
I look forward to it. It's going to happen. I want to see you guys. We'll make it happen one day at a time.
Women in Motorsports North America is a not-for-profit organization that began in 2022. Known as WIMNA, it is a community that focuses on advancing, connecting, and enabling its many partners, including industry executives, drivers, team members, OEM sponsors, racetracks, and more. WIMNA's Women in Drive Summit continues its mission to bring together motorsports professionals. This unique event offers new pathways for individuals to explore career opportunities, discuss current industry challenges, and provides mentorship and resources for future growth in the industry. WIMNA welcomes all who share their passion for motorsports, and if you'd like to stay informed about WIMNA and the Women in Drive Summit, be sure to log on to www.womeninmotorsportsna.com or follow them on social media at Women in Motorsports NA on Instagram and Facebook.
We hope you enjoyed another awesome episode of Break Fix Podcast, brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or get involved, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Grand Touring Motorsports. And if you'd like to learn more about the content of this episode, be sure to check out the follow-on article at gtmotorsports.org. We remain a commercial-free and no annual fees organization through our sponsors, but also through the generous support of our fans, families, and friends through Patreon. For as little as $2.50 a month, you can get access to more behind-the-scenes action, additional pit stop minisodes, and other VIP goodies, as well as keeping our team of creators fed on their strict diet of Fig Newtons, gummy bears, and Monster. So consider signing up for Patreon today at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. And remember, without you, none of this would be possible.